So I'm here at Wakefield Park, and this ground actually has a lot of nostalgia for me. Originally it was actually a cricket field, and not the biggest field for cricket, but this is where your top grades used to play in mine and my dad's side. I only ever played juniors here, but as you can see, the pitch is no longer here. And the reason for that is this ground's far too small. Younger players could clear the fence and senior players would clear the fences easily. Back in the 90s, yeah, balls were going over the fence. It's no longer a cricket ground. Actually, it hasn't been for well over 30 years. And the initial reason they took the ground away was because balls were going over the fence and affecting all these houses. Wakefield Park reminds me a bit of this ground. Now, why is that? Well, when this park was turned into a cricket field, there were no houses around. None. There was nothing, no houses over there, definitely no houses over there. According to my resources, there was only one house, which is well over in that direction, which I don't think anyone would have ever hit a cricket ball in. But these houses over here, yep, they used to cock cricket balls over the fence all the time in the 70s and 80s. Now, field was here first, houses came second, yet people complained. They actually stopped playing cricket here. Now, they moved the team to a more suitable ground, which was much bigger, which we'll have a quick look at. This is where the council ended up moving the cricket club to, and as you can see, much bigger ground, or it appears to be much bigger. Down there, the straight drive is the same distance, but the houses further away, so it makes sense to come here. And yep, it's perfect, much better. Balls are less likely to be hit into people's houses. But here's where I draw a similar lineage to Wakefield Park. The ground was here well before the houses were built, so do people really have a right to complain? When this was a cricket ground, there were no houses there. So what's that got to do with motorcycling? Let's get to it. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Roads of Oz. My name is Matt, and on this video we're talking about Wakefield Park, and that a recent environmental ruling has really put some pressure on it. But instead of watching my face, let's take you to the track where I was doing some laps, and I'll just talk over the top of that. Alright, let's start from the top. So according to the article on the Wakefield Park website, is the viability of Wakefield Park as a motorsport facility is uncertain following a New South Wales Land and Environmental Court LEC ruling handed down yesterday on the 13th of July 2022. Wakefield Park owners, the Benalla Auto Club, undertook LEC proceedings in relation to a new development consent for the facility that was issued by Goulburn Mullawari Council on the 13th of July 2021. The consent was subject to numerous unworkable conditions. During the proceedings, Council proposed further and more stringent conditions. While Wakefield Park's appeal was upheld by the LEC largely adopted Council's proposed conditions. These severely restrict the number of days per year that the circuit can operate at various noise thresholds. Their effect will make it impossible to operate as a sustainable business. From yesterday, use of Wakefield for more than 4 events per month would constitute commencement of the new consent and require surrender of the facility's existing consent. Wakefield Park will therefore reduce its operations to no more than 4 events per month until an alternative pathway is determined. The LEC decision is a shattering blow to the BAC, which submitted the DA with an intention of upgrading and improving Wakefield Park's facilities. Wakefield Park's existence as one of only 2 permanent motorsport facilities in New South Wales is now in jeopardy. Nevertheless, the BAC recognises the importance of Wakefield Park not only to the local economy but to the wider motorsport and automotive industries. It remains committed to exploring all options with every level of government to preserve the facility. Now, this is quite concerning because Wakefield Park was originally opened in 1994 because the New South Wales government was aware that we're losing both Amaroo Park and Oran Park, which are now gone. They were based in Sydney, for those who are not from Australia, and they built the facility out there. Now, originally the facility was intended for amateur racing, but as we know, when you lose other areas, the professional or semi-professional racing industry is going to go down there, and which was a really good thing because it gave the amateurs a good way to compare their times to the actual professionals. Now, the facility itself, in all honesty, is not up to spec for your professional races like the Australian Superbikes and the V8 Supercars, or for those overseas, it's virtually an Aussie NASCAR series. The development, the power for both the cars and Australian superbikes are well above the facilities level, but because we've only got 2 New South Wales based racetracks, it had to do. Now you're going to have groups argue that there's actually 3 racetracks in one at Eastern Creek, which is a crock of shit. All they've done is halved the track and made 2 smaller tracks, then you can combine it to one larger track, and corners are still corners. The corners aren't going to change. The idea behind different racetracks is different conditions will suit different vehicles, and different races would perform better. If you're going to dominate at one track, you're going to dominate there the whole time. So I can't really see the point of only racing at one track. And unfortunately, a lot of Sydney-based clubs have to do that. Now, Eastern Creek is an excellent track, but at the end of the day, we do like a bit of variety. There are other smaller tracks around, but they're privately owned, so they don't have the same capacity and ability as some of the larger tracks. Now, you may think this doesn't affect you, but it will in the long term. If you look at the racetrack locally, there's jobs that are already affected. Canteen workers, paramedics that have to be there on the day, race officials, race marshals, and security. Now, without the events, these jobs are going to vanish, and you think, and then you go to a larger area. If people aren't riding their bikes or racing their cars, they're not going to need consumables, which will flow into your local dealerships and have an impact on them. And also, for those, I'm a big follower of MotoGP, and the sad thing is, in Australia, we don't have a suitable or viable setup that is an easy transition for racers to go into MotoGP. Most of the young talented riders have to risk going over to Europe and racing the European series, the Spanish series, the British series, just to get an opportunity to race at the higher level. In Australia, we're virtually unrecognised, which is a shame. But more importantly, that it's not just being able to race overseas, it's also what I think of as all the amateur racers or hobby guys like myself that don't mind doing a track day once or twice a year and love just getting out there. With the restrictions on this track, that means it's going to put more pressure on places like Eastern Creek and also Wakefield Park also, because money always gets priority. Now, what I mean by that is, well, professional events bring in the money, so they're going to get priority over the amateur events. The high-paying amateur events we push down, and you can see the trickle-down effect. Your hobbyists, racers, and people that actually spend a lot of money at your dealerships, whether it be car or motorcycle, won't be spending that money, or worse still, they'll take up something boring like golf. We don't want that, and it has such an effect on the industry. We could potentially lose businesses over this. Now, I put the tinfoil hat on. This is straight out of a playbook from our governments. They love shutting things down under safety and environmental, and what happens is it opens the door for things like developers, their donors, to come in and get a better deal, and that's probably what will happen with Wakefield Park. If it's unviable, it'll be sold off, and my guess is that's their long-term plan. So if it does shut down, you watch 10 years, it'll be used to develop something. Developers will come in with some development plan. It's a shame, really, because that facility was developed to take the load from the 2 facilities that are shutting down. People tend to forget this, and if things keep going, we'll be lucky to have one track at Eastern Creek. I'm seeing on Facebook a lot of meetings and things like this to object to these conditions being put on. Get behind them. I think there's a cruise at the end of the month. A lot of car clubs are going down there just to show that they want Wakefield Park to stay viable, because it's very important for them to be able to have someone to take their cars on a controlled environment and not on our roads. Anyway, that's pretty much it from me. I hope you found the video interesting. Please get behind Wakefield Park, show them your support. We really can't afford losing another sports complex to be shut down. It is just getting too commonplace, and if you think it's just for racing, you're gravely mistaken. We're also seeing things like national parks and wildlife locking down parks, which are reducing the access for trail bikes and adventure riders, and also your four-wheel drive clubs, and they do it. This has been going on for years. They'll do it under the environment. They're protecting the environment. We all know it's a crock, because we're also starting to find mining getting a foothold in national parks, which goes against its whole its whole ethos. Anyway, that's pretty much it from me. Thanks very much for watching. If you found the video interesting, please like, share, and if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. It helps out my channel massively. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next vid.